Hey, thanks for watching the video. I'm going to install today a Wayne backup sump pump battery powered unit into my basement, and I'm going to show you the steps so that if you're doing the same thing, hopefully I can make this a little bit easier for you. Just so you know, I got to disclose a couple things first. I'm just a homeowner. I'm not a professional installer or any of this kind of stuff, so I'm just showing a do-it-yourselfer as a do-it-yourselfer how to do it yourself. So you know, I might do some steps in here that some people might go, oh my gosh, I can't believe you did it that way, and hopefully I don't do anything unsafe. You know, safety is a priority for me, and I really want to make sure that I do things safely. But you know, I just want to share with you how I did it, you know, and just take that for what it's worth. All right, thanks. Okay, so to start with, you want to be very safe in this operation. So first thing you want to do is make sure that you know where your power is coming from, and get the power supply shut off to the space that you're working in for your sump pump that's existing, and then for your new sump pump before you get it all connected. Don't just unplug things, but you know, make sure that if you're working with any kind of the outlets or that kind of stuff, you go back to the circuit breaker, turn it off. Use a tester to test to make sure that the power is turned off, and I always recommend that you test the tester first. So you plug it in while it's hot, and then you'll be able to see the tester's working. Then turn things off, then stick the tester back in, it's not working. Then you know that your tester is working and that you really don't have any power there. So this is the start of the project. This is my sump as it is today in my basement. And I've had some power outages lately, so I'm going to put in this battery backup unit from Wayne and get some better protection. So the unit I'm going to install is the ESP25 battery backup unit. Comes with like a battery backup controller, which is, you really need that for making sure your battery can last a long time, and the pump. But there's other parts that you need to get that don't come with the kit, and that would be you know, some of the piping. You know, you need basically to get this piping, you need to get an adapter to screw into the pump right in here. That's 1.5 inch NPT thread, and then you need to get a check valve, and then you need to get a piece that you can use to tie into your existing sump if you have that there already. So just a couple pieces. I went out and bought all that stuff. I probably spent another, let's say, $30 in those parts. And then I also bought a shelf rack I'm going to put here to put the battery up on, to get the battery up off the floor, so it's not just sitting on the floor. I don't know why you can't put it on the floor, but I really don't feel comfortable with that. So I bought another one of those racks, and that was probably another 25 bucks. So I actively have water flowing in here. You can see that right there, and I'm not sure how long this project's going to take me, and I'll need to cut into this pipe. So I'm going to use this submersible pump that I have here as a backup. So that's the first thing I'm going to do to set up, is get the submersible pump in place. I've got a hose to connect to it, figure out where I'm going to get power from, and then I'll have that here in case this thing begins to fill up too much on me while I'm doing the work. There, I catch it running. But you got to make sure you have a plan for the water while you're working on it, in case it takes a little bit longer than you think. So here's some of those extra components I had to buy. Check valve, it came with the adapter here to make sure it fits the 1.5 inch pipe, and then a you know, Y adapter, an elbow, and then this is the threaded piece you'll need at the bottom to connect into the pump. And then the store also had these pre-cut 1.5 inch pipes. One was 5 foot and the other one is 2 foot. So hopefully that'll get me into the range, you know, so I won't have to do as much cutting. But those are all the parts I had to buy. And of course you need the glue. I already had the glue, the purple and the glue stuff that you use on this stuff, so you need that as well. So I made my first cut. The length is going to be 41.5 inches. What I did was I put my threaded piece in, and I measured the distance from the ground here to just above this lip here, because that's where the pipe will be. And then I also measured to where my existing coupling is on my existing pump, because I'll just make a match, you know, that's always nice. And so anyway, I use this kind of Sawzall thing from Ryobi, battery powered, and it gets the edges a little bit rough. So you got to hit that with a file, and I'm just going to use, you know, kind of a flat file like this to hit those and knock that down, and then I'll be able to kind of glue it up in here. So my next step was to cut this little piece here, and this is the bottom of the check valve, so water's going to flow up through here, and I need a little adapter piece to get into my elbow, and I don't want that to be too huge, because I want to cut across from coming out of here and then go across at an angle to the main pipe that I've got going in here. And what I'll do is I'll get this thing set, and I'll get the other part set, and then I'll measure to figure out how big that piece needs to be there. But this one here, I just kind of eyeballed this one up based on how far I could stick the pipe into here and how far I thought the pipe would go into there. So it should end up with just a little, nubby of a section showing in here. I didn't really measure it. I just kind of eyeballed it and cut it. But we can do a measurement here real quick. That piece is 4 inches long. So here it is assembled. I glued it all up. Got it seated in here, and this is secured. You just use a flathead screwdriver on that thing, or you can use a socket if you want. Get a little extra torque on it. Sometimes it's hard to get real strong torque on that thing with the screwdriver, but it's tight enough. Anyway, that's what it looks like when that assembly is done. So now I got to start figuring out how to do this piece into the existing pipe section over there. So I was just kind of playing around with some leftover pieces I had, and this was the leftover piece I had from that 5-footer. So from the 5-footer, I cut this part here, and then I cut my little nubby, and this was just a leftover piece. And that actually looks like it's pretty good. This is how it's going to end up being, finalized. I'm going to turn a little weird here, but it'll be that way when it gets in. And then this piece here, I just have to make sure I connect it into the right spot along this pipe here so that everything is matching to the right height, and that's what this piece here will help to make up for. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick this piece into the pump, thread it in here, stick the whole pump down in the water so that I know exactly where it's going to be, and then I can get a precise measurement where on here to cut. And up to this point still I have not cut power to my sump pump because I'm not working on it at all, and I need it to run to keep the water going. So once I get to a point where I'm going to cut this pipe here, that's when I'm going to cut the power to my sump and have to work quickly to try and get ahead of this water. Before I go ahead and thread this in, I'm going to put some Teflon tape around this. I don't know that you really need it, but I don't know. Whenever I thread stuff together, I always use it. So again, I'm not a professional plumber or anything, so there might be some better tips out there. If you got a better tip, please leave a comment. Thanks. So I'm getting ready to put this thing into my sump. Just a tip here, to tighten this thing up here, I use this pipe wrench. You gotta be really careful using a pipe wrench on plastic because you can't really feel how much torque you're putting into that joint. And so what I did was I tightened it down as much as I could with my hand to get it hand tight, and then I used this to give it a couple more turns, and then I tried to back it out with my hand, and it moved a little bit, right? So then I tightened it up a little bit more. So I just took my time with it, but you got to be really careful you don't overdo that because it will crack. Everything's plastic. The other thing I did was I took the power cord and I duct taped it to the pipe so that the power cord stays up out of the water. I don't have to worry about it as I get the rest of this thing fit in position. So I put my pump down in the water, and I reattached this other portion of pipe that I have together, so you can see this matches up here pretty nicely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just mark those lines with a marker, and then I'll know exactly where to cut so that all this fits in here nice and relaxed, and should be good to go. Okay, so I've got everything installed here now. It's all glued up, top and bottom of all these joints. I got these hose clamps are all tight. Got my sump into position. I haven't turned power on yet, so I'm still running off of my backup submersible. I'm gonna let these joints cure up a little bit. On the bottle it says the purple and stuff, you should wait I think 2 hours for full set. But whenever I've seen plumbers work with this stuff, they seem to get on it right away, as long as you're not doing high pressure, right? This is very, very little pressure. So I think I'm just going to give it about maybe 10 more minutes, and then I'm going to start testing it for see if it works. So I've got everything in now, and I've run it. I waited probably more like 20 minutes before I ran it after making that last glue joint, and no leaks or anything. It's looking really good. It's running. There's no leaks. The other thing I'm doing is I'm setting up this rack here with the battery, get it up off the ground, and then I just gotta finish up with the wiring part. All right, so everything's complete. I'm just starting to tidy things up. Here's the controller, full power, plugged in. I'm letting it run test here as the water fills up. It's starting to hit the float there. And it already ran once, and it ran really well. So I'm pretty happy with all that. Now I just need to get my lid put back on here, and I'm done. Pretty straightforward. Total time took me a couple hours. I've seen some things, people said it took like 30 minutes to put this in, but it took me a couple hours. I'd say 2.5 hours. Good luck.